Good evening. Welcome to the Mom to Mom Show, brought to you live by ECRC and Martoma Productions on the Chaldean Moms of Metro Detroit page. Today we're going to be talking about getting organized, and what better time to start than the new year. We're hoping that we can touch a little bit on how to stay organized, how to get organized, how to stay organized, and how to gain focus as we enter into a new year. Joining me are organizational experts, Marilyn Boji and Renee Lige. Welcome.
Thank you.
And life coach therapist Ikhlas Beshi.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks
I want to remind the viewers that you can always ask us questions on the feed, and we'll be happy to answer them. So, ladies, thank you for joining us. Renee and Marilyn, you guys have an actual organizational company.
Yes.
Can you tell us the name and a little bit about your company and how it started?
Well, our company is Organized Solutions, and it started about 4.5 years ago. I was staging a house, and I got stuck. I didn't know what to do, so I called Marilyn, who had been a friend of mine for years and years, since high school. And I called her over. I said, "You need to get over here right now. I need help. I don't know what to do." So I called her, and she came, and since that day, we just never stopped.
Yep, and going forward.
So 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. And the name of the company is Organized Solutions. Very nice. So I know the answer is probably very obvious with this question, but why is getting organized so important?
Getting organized is extremely important because it affects all aspects of your life, and it changes your mindset to a more positive mindset.
It does. Yes. How does it do that? Class, could you answer this?
Well, when our environment is uncluttered and ordered, it helps our mind to be also uncluttered and ordered. And the fruits of things being ordered and orderly is peace. We all know, especially those of us who are moms, how stressful it is when things are completely unorganized and you can't find where things are, and then that ends up like you taking that out on your kids sometimes, right? So it's very important.
So, what should somebody start with first? Organizing their home, their surroundings, or organizing their thoughts?
That's a good question. So you can organize your home and organize things as much as you want, but that's an external thing. And so when thoughts are ordered and mentally, emotionally, things are in place, you have peace about things, it's much easier to go about the business of then organizing your environment. Does that make sense? Yeah.
To me, it does.
So to get at like the root issues of whatever the negative thoughts might be, like you mentioned, mindset is so important.
It just puts you in order. You just to be in order, to save you time.
Very nice. So, then you would say it's always best to start with your mind first.
I would say yes. That's best. But then if you can't do that and you have the clutter in your physical environment, decluttering the physical environment is totally going to help you with your mind. It is.
Yes.
And you know, I have a confession to make about my office at home. Like I have to unclutter and organize my office at least once every 2 weeks, like between mail and like books and other things. And when it's not organized, then I just find myself unorganized.
And it shouldn't be so hard since you're keeping up with it.
Exactly.
You continue to do that.
Yeah, and it makes you more efficient.
It does.
A lot more efficient when you're, especially at work. Well, work or your house.
Right.
You're just more efficient.
For me, whenever there's a lot of clutter, I feel like it's a black cloud weighing over. So even
Holds you back.
the smallest thing becomes a big issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know
It starts continuing to pile things up. And you keep hiding things behind doors and hiding things in drawers and over stacking things and over piling. And
So what would you say are some of the challenges people face when they're trying to get organized?
time, such a big challenge. Working parents, just everyday life gets in the way of, waking up in the morning and not knowing like where your kids' shoes are, and then you're late for school, and then you become late for work, and then you can't find their coat because everything's just thrown on top of everything. But Renee and I help because we create spaces for our clients. We help them to understand that everything, belongs in a place, not just thrown all over the place.
So tell us, if you're going into a home that has called you to help them with getting organized, do you go in for a consultation first? Can you walk us through what happens?
Right in, and
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
even talk.
We just take
We
What
just take
happens?
over.
So if I
Sometimes
call
we're
and I
like,
say,
just
Marilyn
hold on.
and Renee, I need help, what's going to happen next?
We're gonna go into your main space. Like, what's the first place? Like, where are you the most? Like, usually for people, it's their kitchen. You walk in, everything gets dumped into the kitchen. So we start from one room, and then we move. Everything trickles down. So we will be in a pantry, and there's really it's very hard for us to not work in the kitchen when we're working in a pantry, because a lot of people keep things that belong in their kitchen in their pantry, which it should just be food. That's our way of doing it.
So have you ever been called into a home for just one specific room? Or is it
Yes.
usually the entire house?
Well, once we start on a room, usually, the benefit of having two is that she'll work on a space and I'll work on a space. But usually once you get one part of your house organized, then they want the rest to be organized.
Yes. Because we usually can complete a home in about a week, if it's the whole entire home.
And when you walk in, you'll be able to tell your client if they
How
need to
long.
buy anything.
Yes. We try to come with what we have, but everybody's space is very personal. So we try to have the main things that we need, the clear containers, the clear bins, but then also having two of us, one of us can run out and get some extra things that we need, because they try to buy things sometimes, and sometimes them buying it before we come, it doesn't work because we have a different way of doing it, making it work for them.
Do you set up a consultation first?
We
By phone.
usually don't.
By phone?
Well, Renee does.
Yeah, by
most of the
phone.
time. By phone, yeah.
So, what are the obstacles to creating an organized environment and then for your client to actually continue living that way? What
Well-
are some of the obstacles?
Well, when you go into an unorganized home, usually there's not a system in place that is functioning. So we'll create the system, and after that's done, we create zones. So after we organize, explain it to the client, this is how this is supposed to function, they kind of understand it, and that's just how it starts.
They usually can, continue on with it like that because it's everything goes somewhere. It doesn't just go on the kitchen table. So if you have like your den and that's where you guys keep all your books or games, then they shouldn't be on the table or they shouldn't be like on the stairs, and everything has a place. So when we create the space for them, it makes it easier for them to find what they're looking for.
Very nice. And people tend to follow then the system.
Yeah.
Now, Klaas, what would you say is a reason a client of theirs might not be able to follow that system?
That's a good question. And we mentioned procrastination earlier.
Yes.
I think that's huge.
And actually, I read that procrastination is the root of clutter.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and sometimes too, it's like a vicious cycle between perfectionism and procrastination. Like on one hand, people want things to be perfect, but then they look at the project, and because it's often overwhelming, that's where procrastination comes in. And because of overwhelm, people will just kind of abandon it. So those are obstacles, and
I think I fall under that category.
yeah, I think all of us too a little bit.
The
yeah.
procrastinating perfectionist.
Yeah. And I think some of it too, like realistically, it's a lack of support for a lot of people. I know we probably don't talk about that a lot, but if it's a big job and realistically, if one person is let's say the breadwinner in the family, and then you've just got the other person, it's difficult to get those big jobs done if you're the only person. So sometimes an obstacle is lack of support too. Yeah.
What does somebody do then in that case if they're thrown into a situation where you're a working mom, your kids are being homeschooled now, you have to cook, you have to clean. There's a lot going on. How can you create order and
You
keep
hire
things
these two.
organized?
It's very hard
And then it will also be your support system.
Yeah, she should come with us because a lot of clients they'll talk about this with their husbands or their spouses, and the spouse will say, well, you can do it, and they always tell us that, and they said that, we've had a client that has 5 kids and she's a working mother, and her husband's like, oh, you can do it, and
It's real,
I mean,
yeah.
and she does a lot, and she does, tries, but we created, a system for her, and it just makes everything easier.
And I would
helps a
imagine
lot.
the system would be easier for you to follow.
Yes.
It would help make your life easy, but then you also have kids that have to play a part in the system because
good learning
the
tool
books
for the
didn't get
kids.
on the table because mom put them there. So
Yeah.
what do you do in that case when there's children and then if you have adult children that are on their own schedule?
Yeah. Can I go back to the previous question? I just wanted
Sure.
to add to that a little bit. I did mean hey guys, hire you guys, but really, I know we talk about lists a lot, and I'm a big person that loves to write things down, because when you write things down, they just become more clear, and there's all kinds of research done on the therapeutic value of writing things down. But then I think sometimes lists can get in the way too, because then you look at your list and you're like, oh my gosh, you're overwhelmed. So this may seem really simple, but to kind of heal towards the procrastination is just a sticky note, or write 3 things down on a list, and then you're not allowed to move forward with anything else until those 3 things are done. Right.
That's a very good.
So that's really important too, I think, in one way.
Cross out.
Yes, and check off.
Yeah.
Yes,
Feels so good.
it does.
So
It
we
does.
have our first question here. Actually, we have a couple of questions now. Kristen wants to know what's the average amount spent on getting organization help for the home?
Average cost?
Yes.
It's very different. It's different for everyone. It's how do you want it to be? How do you want it to look? Renee and I can go on and on and on, and we can keep shopping, and we can keep buying, and we can keep stacking. It's how far do you want to go with it? How far do you want to take it? You know, I mean, there's like different levels of like, I mean, you can get a builder in there and build you out the shelves that you need, and I mean, the sky's the limit. So really, it could be a little amount and it could be a high amount. It just depends on what they want to
usually
move
work
forward with.
within their budget.
But
You work
yes,
within a
we
budget.
will.
So do you
within
have
our
a
budget.
website where people can go to where there's like a price list on your services?
We don't have a price list. We have Instagram.
Instagram,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, but
So basically, it's
It varies.
Tailored
It's-
to-
yes, it's
Yes.
tailored to the client.
to the room, to
The space.
yeah, how much they have of something. So,
It's different.
yeah.
oh, okay. And then Christine is asking a question. What do they recommend for garage organization? I have the store shelves that can't ever seem to stay organized.
Bins,
Bins.
clear bins, and just labeling is a big
Yes.
thing.
I love labeling.
And actually, if she goes on Instagram, we just did a garage.
We don't usually do garages
Yeah.
because it's like, I mean, lawnmowers and
She doesn't like to get dirty.
You know, my sister helped me put away some Christmas things recently. And when I brought out my bins, my red Christmas bins, and
There
she
you know.
saw them labeled, she was like, "What? Your bins are labeled?"
It's the best
But
way.
it really is
is.
because
It is.
every year you go back and you say, "Okay, this is where this is going," and then you don't again have to be looking for it here or there.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Yep, it makes it much
Yeah.
easier.
And the clear bins is really the way to go
Yeah.
because you can have 25 bins that you can't see through, and you have to go through everything to see what you're looking for.
It definitely helps when the bins are clear. I know
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite at home too.
Same
And it
here.
looks better.
So I have a question to ask to Hlas. God created order from the beginning.
Yes.
How can our faith inform this innate desire and need for order?
Yeah. You know, God did create order from the beginning. And when we think about God, we think, okay, God created the world, right? If we go back to the beginning and we actually look at what God created on each of those days, it's pretty profound because He created like time and space first. And then He separated like light from the darkness. And then came, you know, the creatures. And then on the sixth day was like man and woman. But the fact that God created the way that He did, then set in motion like time and space and the seasons, you know, are just the way we operate, right? So everything was purposeful. Everything was purposeful. And the way we create order in our lives is like it's Psalm 137, for example. Psalm 37, that the steps of a person are ordered by God. So I think faith can inform us by us knowing that like every day is ordered by God. And like we all want to do God's will, don't we? Like we say like especially if a tragedy hits or either way, we want to do God's will. So how intentional are we about that when it comes to ordering our own days? Like, are we intentional when we wake up in the morning and say, okay, Lord, every step I'm taking is like towards you, relying on the Holy Spirit, like Holy Spirit guide my steps, you know? Like a priest gave a homily the other day and he said that the other day he planned on going to the gym at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then he got a call that he needed to go to the hospital to be with someone because they were really sick. And he was talking about like God's will and God's time and how we have to like remain open to that. And so he made a joke out of it. Like, I thought I was going to go to the gym, but I ended up doing this, you know? So our faith informs us just by allowing our lives every day to be guided by the Holy Spirit. as in like, Jesus, you take the wheel, right? You're in control, not I.
Yeah. So there's always such an emphasis on getting organized in January. We're starting a new year, new life. Let's get organized. But how important is it to stay organized throughout the year? And what is there a psychological behavior behind people wanting to start a new year organized? Why isn't it something that people consider throughout the year? Why is it always in January?
Well, because it's the new year, right? It's the new year. It's a fresh start. Yeah, but there is.
Every day is a fresh start.
It really is. That's
Yes.
that's what I was
Every
going to
day.
say.
Yeah.
There's no like ideal time.
No.
And the problem with like the new year is that then by the time like the second week of January hits, and you're not to that goal or you're not moving in the direction of that,
You step away from it.
Well, you do. You end up giving up, but you just pick yourself back up again and you continue to move forward. And then too, to kind of do like a self-exam, like, okay, why didn't I like stay committed to that goal, right? What are the things that got in my way? And again, like writing those things down, right? Was it because I had a lack of support? Was it because my mindset needs to be healed because I'm thinking negatively, right? Because our thoughts control how we feel, and then how we feel ends up controlling our behavior.
At what point should somebody ask themselves that question?
Every day.
Every day?
Seriously.
Every day.
Every day. Because ideally, we should be examining ourselves every day, you know, and there's the Examine prayer, you know, by St. Ignatius, where typically, like, ideally, you would do it at the end of the day, and you ask yourself, like, where did I see God moving in my day? How was my day ordered? Where did I not, like, see God in my day?
In my
like,
mess.
yeah, where did I fall short? Exactly.
Yes.
And then not to beat yourself up about it, because I think especially as women, we are so good at beating ourselves up, right?
Yeah.
And you know, if anyone's like committed to praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet, for example, you are
Every
so-
single night.
So I've
and I
been.
play the song.
Oh, the
It's
song
my
version is
favorite.
amazing. I love it.
Yes, Father Patrick taught me that.
So what if we started having mercy on ourselves as
Yes.
women, that when things don't go as we planned, or like something that we started, you know, is not working, is to have that mercy on ourselves and to look at our thoughts, and are the thoughts self-defeating? Are they self-sabotaging? And if they are, then we're called, again, God's order. He wants us to take our negative thoughts, take those captive, and align them with what the Word of God says about us, right?
Because the women are like the root of the home.
Yeah,
We really are.
we're the feminine genius.
Yeah, we are. And we do
That's
a lot,
St.
and
John
we do
Paul
too
II.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just,
Yeah.
it helps you in every way.
It does.
And then all those negative thoughts, they manifest themselves, and they become what you think.
Right. So imagine
are.
having a clear drawer. You know that you're sitting down now, that you can read your book and have your wine, and you know that there's not anything going on behind that door.
So it
it's
definitely reduces your stress.
Yes, it reduces stress.
Can you give some examples of people or families that you've encountered where you've made a considerable difference in their life by going in to help them get organized?
Really special,
Yes.
great client that she actually had her mother is not doing too good. She's in a wheelchair, and their house was just becoming like, I mean, they had like caregivers, and they would switch off like their 24-hour caregivers, and everyone just, their kitchen was, and their kitchen table was just where everything went.
Yeah.
And we started with the kitchen. We worked our way into the pantry. We made them a space for all her medical things. We took the medical things and we got shelves and we got bins and we made labels, and now these nurses can come in and they can find things. And that night she actually texted Renee and I in a group, and she made dinner, and they ate dinner, at the kitchen table
Yeah.
as a whole entire family, first time in 2 years.
What a gift you gave
Yeah.
them.
Yes,
Oh
and it
my
was just
gosh.
like, it was
As
really,
we were
really
working,
nice.
The mom came in. She wanted to sit at her kitchen
She
table.
wanted to sit at her
because she
table.
wasn't able to for so long. Yeah.
So they wheeled
that was
her chair
nice.
and she sat there and she texted us and she's like, my mom has not left
Yeah.
the kitchen table since you guys came. So it felt really good. It was
Very
nice
nice.
to do that. for
So
them.
how about an example in reverse? A family that you have gone in to help, but then they just struggle to stay focused and organized.
Honestly, we haven't encountered that yet.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know
I don't know if they
if
don't.
it's like us that we completely changed, their every day, but anyone that we've went back to, even if it was like 6 months or a year later, have like continuously I mean, there's a little bit of stuff that are out
Yeah.
of place because of, it's little
Yeah, maintenance.
but like we have Renee, our
oh, the
space
the junk drawers that we were
dividers.
talking
Yes.
about earlier.
And if there's like a place for things, then it's a lot easier to maintain, and it just clears your mind of everything. And it's easier at the end of the day, even for a working
since you
mother.
brought up the junk drawer, why don't you show us
Yeah.
what you
So,
brought
yeah,
in?
we don't do junk drawers.
We don't believe in junk drawers. There should not be.
We do them, but we don't like
It's a
them.
really bad word in their world.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how to break it to you, but I have a junk drawer in every room.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Marilyn earlier, and I was like, I don't have a junk drawer in my house. And my son's like, yes, you do. And I was like, no, I really don't. I truly don't. He's like, yeah, there's a junk drawer right there. And it's literally this big. And it's within a junk drawer. It's actually one of these within the junk drawer, within my drawer. And he calls it the junk drawer. But yeah, so these are awesome. They are from the Container Store, Bed Bath, wherever you can get them at home. So these are the best things that you guys could buy for organizing. And you could create your own personal drawer fit to your space. And they come in different shapes and sizes. And
Those
things
are
like
sold
that.
separately.
Yeah. So then in these spaces, we like the ones that are sold separately, not the ones that are already divided for you, because you
we
don't
make
know.
the space. We don't know what they have until we get there.
Yeah. And then each divider should be have its own contents. Yeah, contents. Yeah, I lost the word.
Pens
Yeah.
have a in one.
Yeah.
its own purpose.
Yeah.
So, and then it starts here, basically,
So that's recommended for a junk drawer,
for all drawers.
for all drawers.
All drawers.
Bathrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
This could hold anything, a toothbrush.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very nice. So now, is being organized a personality trait? Ikhlas?
That's a good question, too. You remind me of one of my professors from grad school.
Oh, yeah.
When the first time I walked into his office, he had books. I mean, everything was everywhere. Everything was everywhere. And this was a guy he was probably, I'm sure, tenured by then. And I thought, like, how does the man function? How do you find anything? So I think for some people, they can live in a mess, if that makes sense. And for other people, they can't, it's total chaos if there isn't.
So it would be a personality trait then.
I think so.
So sometimes it's not some deep underlying issue, it's just how you like to function.
Well, if it's a deep underlying issue, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a personality trait, right? So there could be like maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's depression. Like we talk about like the frontal lobe part of the brain, which is the part of the brain that controls or the ability to be organized, organization. So there's, several things in a person's life that could, for example, impact that part of the brain, including stress. That's very huge. So that's going to make an impact. But as far as a personality trait, I'm not sure about that. I think it's around people's habits too, and what kind of habits you've formed over a lifetime. And like we talk about them as habits in the secular world, but so with our faith, they're virtues, right? So like the virtue of perseverance, right? The virtue of like magnitude, all these things. So I think it varies, but so it's a difference between like a personality trait or if there's like an issue going on in the person's life.
How can somebody tell what might actually be the problem in their life? If we have a mom that's listening now that's thinking to herself, you know, I have a problem staying organized. I struggle with it.
Yeah.
What are some signs that can let her know if it's maybe more than just what's on the surface?
Yeah. So that goes back to her thoughts. So is first of all becoming more aware, increasing your awareness of your thoughts. How much are my thoughts consuming my day? So if you're thinking constantly about how, you know, your house is in disarray, your life is in disarray, then that's a really good indicator. So number one is increasing your awareness of your thoughts. And I like to tell my clients to like imagine that they're at a baseball game, but you're a spectator and your thoughts are out there. So it's kind of like thinking about your thoughts and just becoming more aware of your thoughts. So that's one way. And another way is like, where else? So like the disorganization may be like a microcosm of her world. So where else are things not in order, right? Are there relationships in her life that are not in order, that need to be looked at, that need to be tended to?
And that was one thing that I wanted to ask you. Can somebody be organized in their home but not organized in time management? Can somebody be? Can
I
it
think
be?
you want to
Okay,
comment on that.
I am pretty organized, but I can't manage my time very well because I get distracted,
Okay.
easily distracted. But
That's a really good example.
yeah, okay, so, you know, but I like to be organized. And I wanted to say something about what you said about your question with the moms, how does she know? Well, it might not be an underlying condition, but she doesn't know how to get organized. She doesn't know how to.
They need the first step.
Yeah, she
They need-
doesn't-
or we can walk them through it.
Or she just needs the system, like a functioning, efficient system that she doesn't know how to put together. It's simple,
And every family,
very
Skill.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine the system would have to be unique to the family. Do you go in there and actually go through a day in the
families
life
love
of
it.
this family?
Yeah.
The
You know,
families love it. When they
Yeah.
see it, the kids get excited about it. The kids can see, like a pantry, for example, snacks, because the moms want the kids to pack their lunches, and they can't get to their snacks if they're on the top, or they can't get to their snacks if they're in the box in the garage. So, I mean, having labels and having containers and having a space for them, they get excited. And then when the mom goes grocery shopping and she can come home and, you know, go ahead and put the granola bars back exactly where they go, and they're there to help you, and it's helping them continue, you know, to keep everything else in place.
and every house functions the same. Every laundry room functions the
Yes,
same. Every kitchen, there
just
are
the
zones
space.
in a kitchen that there are certain places to put things in a kitchen. Drawers, they all function the same. So,
There's a prep station. That's where you prep. There's coffee. That's where you drink your coffee. You don't want to go all the way down the hall to get your coffee cup because you don't have room in your cabinets for your coffee mugs.
So you guys organize based on our behaviors.
Yes.
Like who does what and where.
And
and
where?
everyone does the same thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
Yes.
it's not so unique.
It's just
It's really
where.
not. It's
yeah.
just,
Your
just
space
creating
is
that
unique.
Space is different. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it might be the different drawer size or the different pantry size.
Yeah.
But it all works, it all
It does.
functions the same.
Then how about just society today, our lifestyle? How much does it contribute to us being unorganized? Because there's so much, to me, chaos all the time.
Yeah.
With kids, it's no longer just like with us growing up, we went to school, we came home, and we played outside, and there was some sports, but
much.
now moms are overwhelmed with dropping kids off. There's sports. I'm dropping one off and then picking up the other one. It's like you're living in your car almost.
Yeah.
How much does that contribute to being unorganized?
That's huge. That's just so huge. You know, you talked about distractions earlier. I think there's just now more than ever, there's so many distractions. We all struggle with distractions. And I think it's the other part of that is a lack of silence. And I've talked to so many people, including when you guys got here and we were talking earlier, that because of COVID, a lot of people felt like COVID was a blessing because they've had more time to be home with their family. The schedules have not been as busy, and there has been like more downtime. So it's, again, and the way that impacts our faith life or is related to our faith life is like if we're not spending that quiet time, at least 15, 20 minutes a day in silence, just, you know, starting our day or at the end of the day. I mean, like even when my kids were younger, they could tell when I did not have that time or when I did not go to the gym, right? It makes a big impact. And I think social media, like the technology
That
and
was
all
what
that.
I was going to ask you. How much does that play a part?
Oh, that's just huge. And if everyone hasn't seen the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix, that's just like a must see. And so being intentional as a family, as a person, on how much of the technology is robbing me of like precious time every day. Someone told me the other day that he thought like he was spending about a half hour a day on TikTok, and he said when he finally put the usage function on his phone, he realized that he was on there for 3 hours. And then how did that make him feel? He was frustrated, he was like down, he felt bad about himself. And so like time is a gift, right? And it's how are we using our time? And the way you can tell by any activity if the time is like well spent and it's like in the order of God is what's the fruit of it, right? Which is another way of saying like, how do I feel? Like, you know, what is the fruit of it? Did I get peace from this? Or did I get even more stressed out, right? And the way we compare ourselves, especially as women on social media, what's the fruit of my spending like all this time on social media? Then I end up comparing myself to other people, and that makes me feel horrible. So again, it's just like, it's becoming more aware of how we're spending our life, what are our behaviors, and minimizing the chaos and increasing the silence.
Yes.
You know, I struggled with that with social media, with Snapchat.
Did you?
Yes, I was like, oh, I need to be doing this with my kids. Oh my God, I need to do this with my kids. Oh, I have. Why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
So I stopped.
Good for
I don't,
you.
I don't go on it anymore, and it just helped so much. I don't care what anyone else is doing.
And you're doing your own
Yes.
thing
You
with your
concentrate
kids.
on
I don't
yourself.
have to feel guilty that,
Yes.
oh, I didn't take them sledding today. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was not good for me.
I do want to remind the viewers that feel free to ask any questions, please. The panel would love to answer anything that you guys have to ask. But that was what I wanted to ask you about social media and how much, obviously there's so many different social media outlets now. It's just beyond, remember when it was the BlackBerry BBM? Is that what it was called? Was it called
thinking
BBM?
about that the
And then
other
it's Facebook and,
too
you know,
much.
Instagram and
Yeah, it's too much.
Snapchat and
Well, it's basically the internet that just, you know, opened all that up. Although, I mean, we can't deny that like technology has been amazing in so many different ways, especially like evangelizing, keeping in touch with people, things like that. But I went to a training like years ago, and I remember the trainer said about technology, he said that it's a wonderful servant, but it's a terrible master.
You know, I
It
heard
is.
Steve Jobs wouldn't even let his own kids.
Yeah, he didn't.
No.
And actually that documentary, The Social Dilemma,
I only got
is all
20 minutes into it. And I fell
It's all.
asleep.
It was created by all the people who used to work for
Yes.
the tech companies,
Yeah.
and their conscience got to them because of how it was run. And so they created this documentary to like raise awareness
But
to
it's
people.
harder now during this COVID and the homeschooling.
Yeah.
And the kids having to have their laptops and their
Yeah.
iPads and
Yeah,
their
yeah.
phones and like going to
Yes.
school.
Yes.
And like my daughter was told like you can bring your phone to school
Yeah.
and you can bring your iPad to school, and they're just like everything continues to like take all their time, and then it takes our time, and
Yes.
that's how you fall back.
Well, that's okay, yeah. If it's the tools that they're using for school, obviously, but it's more of like the Snapchat, the Instagram,
The TikTok.
yeah, all those things.
So, how often do we find our home cluttered with items that we don't need? And what are some tips for people to figure out what they do and don't need? If you're walking into a home and they have a pile of stuff in the closet that they don't
How
need.
much do they use it?
All of us live with things we don't need, so
Yes.
much that we don't need.
Yep.
And it feels so good to get rid of that stuff. That's just
So
like
many other
holding you
people.
down and keeping up storage space in
Right,
your
just
house.
storing it for
Yeah.
no reason, just keeping it in a box and putting it away when there are people out there that, you know, that we can donate to. There's people out there that need shoes and need coats and need clothes, and, you know, things happen to people. Yeah, I mean, everything, cups and plates and dishes. And we had like a friend over this COVID, his house caught on fire, and his whole house completely like burnt down to the ground. He lost his 2 dogs. It was him and his wife and his kids were all out to dinner. And like, I can just say like what I posted it on Instagram, and like the Chaldean community was like so giving. They were giving us so much that we had to stop because we helped them get a home. And I mean, even in the new home, they didn't have room for like the things.
Wow.
So I mean,
amazing.
it's good to like, you know, clear your mind and clear your closet and clear your junk drawer, and you know, they need they needed everything. They didn't have anything.
Is for a client that hires you, is there a rule of thumb that you try to get them to follow on what they should actually give away?
Well, with clothes, the rule of thumb is if you haven't worn it in a year, you're not going to wear it again.
Or 2.
Yeah, okay, or 2. That's Marilyn's
2
rule
years.
of thumb. Just in case it comes back in style.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does sometimes.
Back in
It
style.
does. Everything's back in style.
Buy it again, you know? I mean, who knows when it's going to come back in style, really? Unless
Yeah.
it's a classic piece.
I mean, you don't
know?
need 47 black cardigans.
But no.
But I mean, there's
like that.
tons of people that do that. I mean, that's what they like. They shop and that's what they want. Or just buying too much of anything is just, that's what starts your clutter.
So that's for clothing. How about kitchenware?
Same thing with kitchen. All the
Kitchenware.
COVID scared everyone.
If you have-
everyone overbought food. Everyone
Yeah.
overbought paper towel. Everyone overbought. They don't have the room for it. They don't have the storage for it.
And you don't need more than 1 or 2, you know, like kitchen scissors or,
Exactly.
you know, you don't need so much stuff.
Right. You don't need 40 spoons. And how many pots can you put on your stove? 5?
I'm just thinking of my
only
mother
5.
right now.
No, we've had, you know, we've helped a lot of like the Chaldean grandmas.
You have?
We have, yeah, and they're like, and
Was there a
they,
distiato?
so much fun working with them.
But they are fun.
So
Yeah.
much fun. They're like, oh, I'm going to use this. Oh, we're like, yeah, right. And then 2 seconds later, can you guys get me that pot? And she like, you know, one lady, we went to her house and she used what she said she used. So we created some space for her. We created a lot of space for her. But there was so much there that she did not need to have there. And it was hard on her.
How do you handle when you come across clients that hold on to everything because of a sentimental value?
Renee and I start arguing.
Because I usually say, well, do you have a picture of this? And that's hard. That's a hard question. It's just,
It's just a little bit of talking with them. Like,
Yeah.
we could use you to come over there and just give them a little. I mean, we do like a little like pep talk with them, And they're with us. A lot of the time they're with us. If they're not with us, it's really easy. They're like, get rid of it if it's broken. Get rid of it if it's old. Get rid of it if you think it's not, cute anymore.
Yeah.
That's an easy client. But then there's the clients that are standing there and they're like, oh my gosh, that's my kid's
yeah.
drawing when he turned 4. He
Right.
drew that for me, and it's
Yeah.
a crumpled piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that's where we're like, how many do you have?
I think a lot of moms
Yeah.
save
My
their
sister saves
Because it's
any
total
kid
per
that's
child.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually really good when I do that with them with the kids.
Yeah,
work and
Renee
things.
has
Yeah,
her.
because I'll know what is valuable, what's going to be good to save, what's not good to save. So
We usually know,
we talk.
like, yeah.
We work together with the client.
So you ask them why they're holding on to this thing?
Oh yeah, we want to understand why do you have this?
Right. So then there's this thing called the 5 whys. Have you heard of the 5 whys?
No.
So when they give you the answer to the first why, then you take that answer and you ask that, you turn that into a why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you do that 5
I
times.
know we do that,
Then
but I
you-
didn't know it was the
Yeah.
5 whys.
Yeah.
So what happens when you hit the 5th why?
Well, then that will help you get to the real reason why they're holding on to it.
And they usually say, okay, fine, just get rid of it.
They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Especially when
Almost
you-
always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when they see all the stuff lined up in front of them of how much of this piece
Yeah.
of art or whatever it is that they have, then they realize, oh, I don't need all that.
And then we did get a question. I do want to ask this for a class. Kristen wants to ask, can you recommend ways to get organized spiritually, a prayer routine?
Yeah, I love
'Cause
that question.
There's so much to being organized
There is.
that it beyond just your
Yeah.
home. And
The first thing I would say to that is if Kristen or anyone else that's listening is free in the mornings, and they're hopefully it's when the kids are in school. I can't keep track now if the kids are hybrid now or back to school because our kids are older. But if people have an opportunity to go to daily mass, there is a daily mass at every Catholic church in every city. Getting in the habit of going to daily mass, if the opportunity is there. If it's not, making a habit of going to adoration and doing like a holy hour. I noticed that since COVID hit, what a blessing. I've noticed there's like a lot more people going to the grotto at St. Thomas than I ever saw before when it was, not COVID, because now people are in the comfort of their homes and they're praising and worshiping in the car. I know a lot of people that go there and listen to music and they'll journal and are lingering longer there. So daily mass, adoration. I tell all my clients and everyone and their brother to journal. Like, journaling is such an amazing practice. It's an incredible spiritual practice. It's an incredible mental practice. And you can look at it as like writing letters to God. Again, it's just like talking about your day, talking to Him about your day. And that practice helps order your thoughts. Because so many of us struggle, including myself. Like, people think, oh, I'm a therapist and a life coach, like I got it all together. I struggle too. I mean, I'm human, right? But those practices have like just transformed. They've transformed my life, and the journaling especially is getting behind our thoughts, because we hold so much up here, and as women. So like we can multitask, right? We're the gender that can multitask. There's so much that we have in our minds on any given day between, okay, all the things that I have to do, whether it's what's going on at work or at home, what am I going to cook? Okay, I have to go, shopping or whatever. And then everything else that we think about. So when you take all those thoughts and you actually write them down, you've taken them out of the darkness and you've brought them to the light, and they become so much more clearer. And by doing that, that's going to help order other aspects of your life. So daily mass, adoration, journaling, and it's not so much, it's wonderful if it can be something that started in the morning, just like for a lot of people, like if you don't work out in the morning, it doesn't get done, right?
yeah.
So if the earlier the better, and if that can't happen, then choose a time that's best. And if there's not a consistent habit, like the same time every day, as long as you're doing that thing every day, whatever it is, right? So I hope that helps.
That's very good advice.
You know, I have maybe a little tip for her. I keep a Bible in my car, and sometimes if I have like an extra 5 minutes during school pickup or when I pick up my kids or before work, I'll open the Bible.
That's a
'Cause
great
that's
idea.
like the 5 minutes that I had, you know, for that day.
So
Spending
I
time
would
in
like
the
to
Word
tie
of
that
God.
into
Yeah.
a comment that came from ECRC. It's perfect timing for purging the extra as we approach Lent. Learn to live with less. So now with Lent coming,
Less is definitely more.
is there a challenge that somebody can incorporate? What would you recommend? Is it a 30 days to declutter?
Or 30 days to not
Well, it'd be
shop
40 days for
online.
Lent, but so if you were to
You
go
should
through your
repeat
home,
that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no, the easiest thing for everyone this past year was to get on their phone and order things to their door. And boxes and boxes and boxes are getting stocked up. And once you get, I mean, you're continuing another pattern that you don't have time to even open those boxes. You don't have time to put those things away. So maybe, I mean, for Lent, just 40 days of
40 days of
no online shopping. That would be a nice, easy. I mean, we say it's easy, but
Yeah.
it's not adding to the clutter.
it's right.
and you don't
it
need
helps
it.
you. It can help you
Yeah.
in the long run.
It
And then
does.
tie that into your prayer life.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And please, God, help me, get through this day without ordering anything online.
Yeah, absolutely. Seriously.
And I mean, it will work. That's your
Yeah.
day. Your day is going to work that day.
Yeah.
And then the next day, just say it again.
And I can probably already sense people are cringing at that.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
really,
that's what's
30
supposed
days?
to be, yeah.
So if they can't pray that prayer, then the prayer they can pray is, Lord, grant me the desire to desire that, right?
Yes.
So my niece, a few years ago, she sent in a group chat for Lent, and it's been awesome. I've been doing it every year since. She sent us a picture of I forgot what the title was. Let's say it was 4 garbage bags or 6 garbage bags, but I think you can attach any meaning you want to it as long as it's meaningful to Lent. But maybe every week during Lent, putting a garbage bag or a few boxes away of things that you're not using anymore and giving them away.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
awesome.
So
There's so many charities out there
So
too
many.
that can
there
help.
are. There's so many people in need.
Tons
so
of
many people
schools.
in
There's, I mean, you can drive down the road and see those bins.
Yeah.
Just drop off
Even
things.
people, Purple Heart.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to
pick
give a
up-
plug to Chaldean American Ladies of Charity. And
Oh, yeah.
they will come by and pick up furniture.
They do? Okay.
And we will gladly take donations for clothing, housewares, seasonal items. So why not give it to somebody that can use it?
Yeah. I want to jump on what Marilyn said too at the very beginning when you asked the question. But I think because we all love the question, I'm not sure if everybody heard it, but she said less is more. So when it comes to Lent, so to have people get into the mindset of less is really more, for that's a lie, I think, from the enemy that we believe, especially those of us that we lead a decent life. We can buy most of the things that we want. So less is more. So
what you need,
it's what you need, yeah.
not what you want.
It's exactly. And even with food, when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
fasting, less is more, because the more hungry, the more we fast, the more spiritually
Yep,
full
and the
that
less
we
you
feel.
want all that junk.
Yes.
How about since you mentioned within our community, as a society, all of the things that we have,
Yeah.
how often do we tend to just overbuy?
I mean, we all do. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We go to Costco, and Costco's the best, right? For having these things there, like you said, how many spoons can you have? How many pots can you have? So, here's a Lenten challenge. Walk into a Costco or the store, and without a cart, go in and get what you need. And leave. Like I've done that a few times to challenge myself, you know. So yeah, we do. And some of that too is psychological. I think, was it before the show we were talking about retail therapy? I think that was like one of the worst things that was ever created.
Yes, that was before.
Because we think that that thing that we're buying is going to fulfill us and make us happy. And in the long run, honestly, like God alone, I think it's Saint Teresa of Avila that has the poem, and then it ends with like, God alone is enough. I mean, when you look at the saints, God alone is like, yes, God, relationship, family. So I guess another thing for Lent in that regard is to take the focus off of like buying more
Start giving, maybe.
start giving. And not only that, but to make Lent about relationships. What am I going to do with the relationships in my life? How can I like mend the relationships that are kind of fragile or broken or whatever? But we think we need all these things, and we really don't.
Well, I believe we just live in a world where everything is available to you. Like
Yeah.
you said, within a click, and
Yes.
Amazon Prime will have it at your door.
You don't know how many
Same day groceries.
groceries we throw away
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they're bad.
But,
and they just
but the
keep
point being
rebuying
is
it.
we live in a world now where
It's
we
simple.
have everything. Like
Yep.
I grew up in a time where if you wanted a certain something, you might have to wait till Christmas to get it.
Oh, yeah.
But nowadays we just buy.
It's
If
instant
your kids want
gratification.
something, you automatically get
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
and then it's available to us right away too. But you find people more depressed, more unhappy. You know,
Doesn't
children with
satisfy anything.
just psychological issues, when they have 10 times more than we ever did growing up. And I think a lot of it is just because you were created to love other people, not items. And how much are we just pushing these items?
Yeah, and as a community, how much have, like, whether it's our homes or our cars or what we're buying, how much has that consumerism, like, become an idol in my life? Like the first commandment, God created as such, right, in the order of things, that you should love your God above all else, right? And I think sometimes people don't even realize that they might be making an idol of other things,
yeah.
whether it's like making an idol of work, and then like not spending enough time with family, making an idol of, you know, like we're saying about things.
Things.
Yeah, so
So I heard a priest friend of ours said one time, anything that you become a hostage to becomes your new God. And it could be that brand new car that you bought that you park all the way in the back so it doesn't get scratched,
Yeah.
or your job
Yeah.
that you find yourself a hostage to your
Yeah.
job, or you know,
That's
anything that you
enslaved
have
you.
that makes you have to take that one extra step, that you really become a hostage to it, becomes your new idol.
Yeah.
Because you don't really enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, you know, that reminds me of St. John Paul II. In one of his encyclicals, he said that where there is love, there is freedom. And people think that freedom is the ability to go out and do whatever you want, go out and buy whatever you want, go out and do whatever you want. But that's not the real meaning of freedom. So where there is love, there's freedom. It means getting to the point where you love the Lord so much that you have this interior freedom, that when you see that bag or that thing or whatever it is, that you have the interior freedom to say, you know what? No, I really don't need that. And then to have total peace and walking away without that thing. And it can be done. It's very possible. It's very possible. So if we go back to those habits again, like Kristen asked, so like increasing our prayer life, adoration more, focusing on our relationships, those things that really at the end of our lives, if we went back and said, how would I do this all over again? It would be forgiving those people that we don't want to forgive. It would be, I wish I didn't work so much and spent more time with my kids. It would be all these things that, you know, the world is, you know, we're allowing the world to take over from us.
I would always say if there's one blessing that came out of the COVID-19 was just to slow down.
Yeah. Slow down.
To slow down and appreciate your family.
Yeah.
And it was, for me, having adult children, it was nice that my kids were either going to school from home or working from home.
Oh, yeah.
Because you almost have to make an appointment to see your children.
Some people did the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And everything went too fast for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they still didn't take time. A lot of people still didn't, you know, stop and relax with the family. They just still kept on with shopping, and they still kept on with, you know, not getting it together in the home. And I mean, for us, it's just to make that phone call and for us to come out there and to help them. Maybe they just needed, like, you know, a step forward in the right direction. And just, like, you know, a little helping hand. And then they can have time for saying their prayer at the end of the night, because a lot of people probably don't even have time.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, because I hear people say, oh, I didn't have time for that. I mean, saying the rosary takes, like, what, 15, 16 minutes? And, I mean, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'm, like, too tired to say it.
I'm glad you mentioned time. That's the other thing that, on like a psychological perspective, that I'd love to touch on, is that the clock is like an inordinate thing, and we're the ones that control how we spend our time with that clock. And I think for too many of us, it's like the other way around.
Yes.
Right.
I do believe that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you coming out to talk with us today. It's just amazing how much more we could talk about.
Yes.
And who would have thought this all came from just being organized? Yes. And I want to thank the viewers for tuning in and watching. I know that some people did ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. I believe you do follow the Moms page. If you happen to see a question, if you wouldn't mind answering it, we'd really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for being here today.
You.
Thanks for having
Thank you.
us.